So, hello, welcome, fellow travelers. So today, Lori, AKA Morty, and I are your interdimensional tour guides through the CNCF multiverse, where open source projects evolve faster than you can say, cube control, get pods. Okay, yeah, that wasn't very funny, was it? So think of this session as both kind of a map and a survival guide. We know it can get a little overwhelming for people who are new to this ecosystem, but by the end, you'll know how to check out the landscape, you'll know how to evaluate some projects, and maybe, hopefully, even contribute without frying your brain. So we'll mix a little humor in, but we'll have some real info, I promise, because in Cloud Native, curiosity is the best debugging tool.
She's here all week, guys.
I'm here all week. Okay, I have to introduce myself. Yes, hi, I am Rick. Actually, my name is Katherine Druckman. I am an open source advocate, a community contributor, and a recovering software engineer, which usually does get a few laughs because that kind of resonates, if you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so that's what I am. I've spent many years, all the way back to Linux Journal and many companies, helping developers and enterprises and whatnot collaborate in the open. These days, I'm gearing up to do the next big thing. Well, we'll see what that is. I'm sure some of you are in that boat as well. But where I really love to work is at the intersection of open source, AI, security, so we'll geek out about some of those things in a minute. And when I'm not tinkering, I'm helping other people find their way through this wonderful world of projects.
Sweet. And my name is Lorusso, AKA Morty. As you can tell, I like wearing costumes. This is a picture of me and my daughter Halloween. She was a bloody axe murderer, and I was the police officer trying to arrest her. I should have, because she definitely ate all of her candy in almost one night, and we will be hitting the dentist pretty soon. So anyway, I am the director of outreach at the Rust Foundation, but I have, like Katherine, been working in open source for a long time. I used to be the marketing chair of the CNCF a few years ago. I work with OpenSSF, CDF, obviously Rust Foundation, bunches of different letters to just say, open source is amazing. There's lots of opportunity in open source. And if you're really looking to make strong connections, do what George said, hit the project pavilion, try and talk to as many people as you can, and feel free to link in with me on LinkedIn. Just say you met me here. So I will accept. And yeah, let's dig in.
So here's a plan. We have a little bit of a flight plan for this scientific expedition. We're going to start with how Kubernetes escaped the lab. Sorry, I'm into the science puns here. But yeah, we're going to talk about why the landscape exists, right? And how to navigate it without, again, frying your brain. But then we're going to go out, we're going to give you a little bit of info about how to evaluate projects like scientists, as we do. And then we'll talk about a few standout, cool projects, and then how you can contribute.
All right, so you're all here, so I'm sure you all know what the CNCF, right, is. It wants to make cloud-native computing ubiquitous. As George said, we have over 200 projects. How many of you are currently working in a project? Raise your hand. Or representing a project. Okay. How many of you, we have over almost 300,000 contributors. How many of you are contributing to a project today? Okay, hopefully by the end of this week, those hands will go up. And then how many of you know if your company is a CNCF member? Okay. This is something that you should definitely go back to your people with when you get home next week and find out about all of the benefits that you have as a CNCF member. There's trainings, there's certifications, there's all kinds of things that get bundled up in your benefits. And if your company is like the ones I work for, you have no idea what they are because they never get past the people that sign the check. So don't let those opportunities pass you by. You probably have training credit somewhere that can totally help you out.
Yeah, very useful stuff. So every project in the CNCF has a maturity level. So the main three are sandbox, incubating, or graduated, but it's also important to note that sometimes projects do get archived. Sometimes maybe they don't take off, or they reach end of life and they need to be archived. There are about 20-ish of those, and we'll talk about ish here in a little bit. So a project, how does it begin, right? It begins as a hypothesis, just back to that scientific method. Someone says, what if we orchestrated containers with YAML and tiers? And the foundation says, sure, let's try that out, right? So that's a sandbox project. You play around with it. Then once it gets a little bit more momentum, a few more contributors, a little bit more adoption, that kind of thing, then it moves to incubating. It's growing, but it's not completely graduated yet, and Lori can tell us a little bit about what that means.
Okay, so I'm sure you all know that about Kubernetes. I'm sure that's why we're all here. So Kubernetes turned 10 last year. The CNCF is actually only turning 10 this year. So Kubernetes started before the CNCF was formed. But what does it take to graduate? Like Control Plane just graduated. I don't know if you saw that notification on LinkedIn or wherever you get your information. But it has to have thriving adoption rates. It has to meet all of the incubation criteria. It has to have committers from at least 2 organizations. It has to have documented structure and governance process, and it has to meet the Linux Foundation Core Infrastructure Initiative's best practice badge. When you donate a project to the CNCF or you working in a project with the CNCF, you'll quickly realize it is a marathon and not a sprint to get from sandbox to incubating to graduated. There's all these things you have to do, and basically it's so that when companies decide to use your project, they know that it's going to be there for the long haul.
So look at this growth. This is what happens when you give engineers caffeine and admin privileges, right there.
Also,
Rapid
I think it's
proliferation.
really interesting to see the spike. So the top is archived. There's 20 archived. The biggest part is sandbox. There's 148 sandbox. Then we've got incubating at 36 and graduated at 34. But if you look, in 2020, all of a sudden the innovation happened, right? Why do you think that is? Could it be because we were all
caffeine.
stuck at home trying to figure out something to do, how to make our lives better, how to work together better? So as you can see, the projects have increased over time, but what does that mean? That means the landscape has increased over time. And what does that mean? It means there's a shark ton of projects out there, but what do we use? So yeah, shark ton, that's a new one. Rick and Morty, right? It's okay. So we're gonna talk about the landscape, and I know we're kind of running long. So what is the CNCF landscape? This is a CNCF landscape. This is a bunch of logos on a page with a bunch of categories that is overwhelming and ridiculous. And trust me, if you saw it when it first got rolled out, you would have been like, this looks glorious, because it does. The amount of work they put in to make this better is great. So what do you need to do when you get here? The first thing, you need to filter. So we can just filter by CNCF projects that are graduated, incubating, and sandbox. That means they're actually still being worked on today. And boom, it becomes a lot clearer. Then say you are interested in security and you want to kind of look at what open source projects are doing things in security. So let's look for security. Security and compliance falls under provisioning. So let's go back up to our filter tool and go ahead and only look at CNCF projects that are currently security. And what's also kind of confusing is that, oh, this logo is really big, so it must be like graduated. No, you've got graduated projects next to incubating projects, next to tiny projects that could be incubating or sandbox. I don't know. So again, there's tons of ways to kind of use this, but I would say the filter is your #1 resource to start with. And the last thing that you can kind of do, and not the last thing, but one of the things I want to point out is that you can go ahead and click this button, and you can download the landscape. You can download the projects and the items in it. And why is that important? It is important because perhaps you just want to get, why is this so big? A bird's-eye view of what's going on. This happens every time. Okay. And so this way, you get a nice little spreadsheet, and you can see the project name, it's in alphabetical order, the maturity level it's in, when it was accepted, when it sandboxed, incubated, if it graduated. And one of the things I think is super important is the security checks. When was the last time it did a security audit? Okay, so let's jump into projects. Oh, girl, where are you at? Okay. So Helm.
Helm, okay, I'm jumping ahead here.
Yeah.
Okay, so Helm is an open source project it's a Kubernetes package manager, right? Using Helm charts, it helps you kind of get your act together. What I like to say about Helm though, so Helm is a graduated project. It's been around for a very long time, very widely adopted. Let's show them a little bit of Clo monitor action. So what does this mean, right? So we know it's a graduated project. It has a pretty high Clo monitor score, whatever that means. A lot of green in there, but you have a little bit of red and yellow. Well, what does that mean? it's still, again, it's a graduated project. It's definitely ready for production. So just because you see something in red does not mean, oh my gosh, panic, what's wrong here? What it really means is that red is an opportunity to contribute. That red means, well, any project could be better, whether it's sandbox, incubating, or graduated. So, I'd like to think, it's not so black and white, right? There's a lot of nuance here. And the important thing to take away when you're talking about looking and diving into these projects is to think about doing due diligence, right? So here's just a really quick slide about how we want to approach kind of using a scientific method to approach evaluating projects, right? First, figure out what it is that you're looking for. Take a step back from all the overwhelming number of projects. There are over 200, right? So take a step back and go through methodically. Think about what problems you're trying to solve. What tools do you need? And then go through. Evaluate project health using things like Flow Monitor. There's some security checks in there. Again, filter, narrow it down by maturity level and by other things, right? By which part of your stack you're looking to fill a gap. And then test these things out, right? Always also remember the important one is number 5, contribute. Always contribute early and often.
Okay, so now let's look at, all right, so George was talking about, or Katherine kind of mentioned, archived-ish and the power of contribution. So I don't know how many of you know about the external secrets operator. We got a hand raised. Yes, hey. Okay, more hands, that's awesome. So one of the things I think that's really cool about this project is that it was on its last lifeline. There were companies that were using it, but the contributors were like, we are maxed out, we are taxed, we cannot do this anymore. And so here this week, there are people that are working on this project, External Secrets. They have kind of brought it back from, I don't want to say the grave, but it was headed that way. And they are now using it today, and we could totally use more contributors. So you see the first commit was in 2020, and the last one was last month. These are very quick and easy things to look at to let you know, again, like what Katherine was saying, the health of your project. These are not like, they're not vanity metrics like GitHub stars. This is like the actual work that's happening within the project, which I think is super important. And again, it's got a super high score on Flow Monitor, but there are opportunities for you to help and contribute to make it higher. So again, like security is something that is not going away. How many of you love security? Raise your hands.
There's always a red X
I love
in
it.
security.
There's more people
Always.
that said that this session than any other session I've been in, so yay. But it's super important and it's not going anywhere. And as you can see, a lot of the projects that we've showed you, or I guess we only showed you 2, security is something that they need work in. And if that is important to you and you want to convince your boss to use this project, and they're like, well, it's failing on security, and by failing there's like a red dot and that scares me, it's an opportunity for you to kind of step in and see what you can do to make it better.
And this project also is a really good example is if you need this project, then step up and help it survive, help it be healthy, help it thrive, right? Because at the end of the day, we're all solving our own problems here. So, yeah. You want to go back to the, really quickly, just to one more. There. This is kind of a quick evaluation checklist, just something to keep in mind if you want to grab a picture. This is kind of how we like to think about putting a little process into the overwhelming task that is navigating this landscape. And I think we can skip to the community stuff.
Okay.
You done? There we go.
All right, so we've kind of rushed through this because 15 minutes goes a lot faster when you look silly on stage than you thought it would. So we just really want to say, like, it's awesome that you're all here. Do what George said, go to the project pavilion, learn more about the projects that are being built in open source, figure out ways that you can help and you can contribute, whether it's writing documentation, whether it's just sitting on a meeting, whether it's answering a question in the Slack channel or asking a question in the Slack channel. There's tons of ways for you to get involved in the CNCF and that you can end up here on stage, whether it's in a real session or in the Project Lightning talks or whatever, and you can embarrass yourself in front of all of your soon-to-be friends. So that's Katherine and I, Rick and Morty's kind of.
We'll be back this afternoon for more shenanigans. Enjoy, learn all the things about all the projects.
And go to the ask.cncf.io to use George's new tool when you get stuck. And again, filter on the CNCF landscape because there's so many projects going on in the cloud native space, more than the ones that you know every day, like Kubernetes, Helm, and Control Plane.
evaluate like a scientist, help keep the projects healthy, and that's it. We're good.
Thank you.